In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. One of the most important events in the life of the Prophet ﷺ actually occurred when his life had ended, as his passing was not the same as the passing of any other person. And his passing was nothing even like the passing away of any other prophet. That is because that all revelation and divine messages ended with the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ informed us in a hadith that his death would be a great disaster. He said, "O people, if any believer is afflicted by a disaster, let him remember the disaster of my death, so that this may give him ease, as no one will be afflicted with a disaster which is greater than that of my death." Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu has narrated that the Prophet ﷺ has said, "The stars protect the skies, and when the stars disappear, the skies will get what they were promised, and that is the day of resurrection." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "I protect my companions. So when I disappear, my companions will get what they were promised, and that is trials, wars, and people leaving the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And the Prophet ﷺ said that my companions protect my ummah. That my companions protect my ummah. And that when my companions disappear, my nation will get what they were promised. My ummah will get what they were promised. And that is disunity, trials, and the hearts differing in matters. And the A'immah say that all these things that the Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith have happened, and they are happening in front of us now. We see all the trials that the Muslim community faces and how we differ with each other on little things. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never wanted for the believers to feel as though the Prophet ﷺ would remain forever, that he would live forever. And so he says in the Quran, as I recited earlier, Muhammad is nothing but a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, continues, "So if he was to die or to be killed, would you turn back on your heels to unbelief?" And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "He who turns back on his heels will never harm Allah at all, but Allah will reward the grateful." Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu one time recited Surah Nasr, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. It's a surah that all of us know. Which means when the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has come and the conquest of Makkah, and you see the people entering the religion of Allah in crowds, then exalt Him, exalt Allah with the praise of your Lord, and ask forgiveness of Him. Indeed, إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Indeed, He is ever accepting of repentance. When this surah was revealed, it was during the time after the Hajj, around Eid time after the Hajj. And it became known from this surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was giving a signal to the Prophet ﷺ that his life was over and his death was coming near. And this is according to Imam Bayhaqi. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu has said that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when the surah was revealed afterwards, he asked the companions about the interpretation of this surah. What is the tafsir of this surah? Why was it revealed? What was the purpose of this surah being revealed? Surely it was for some reason. So some of the Sahaba replied, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the Muslims will become so strong that they will conquer other lands. And the people will start to enter into the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what some of the Sahaba said. But Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was not satisfied with this answer. And so he said, "Oh, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Abbas, what is your opinion? What do you think? Why was this surah revealed? What is the purpose behind it?" And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that this surah was a sign for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to know that the time of his death was coming near, that it was ready, it was time for him to go. My dear brothers and sisters, on many occasions the Prophet ﷺ hinted to his companions, gave him these clues that his death was approaching. For example, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu has said that when the Prophet ﷺ was sending me to Yemen, he walked alongside me and he was advising me as I was riding. He was riding on his animal and the Prophet ﷺ was advising him. This is very important. This is something that I find very beautiful. When we want advice, we go probably to our best friend, maybe our father or mother. Maybe we go to someone that we really trust. But Mu'adh ibn Jabal gets advice directly from Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he's on his animal and he's riding, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is walking alongside him, and he gives him the advice. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "O Mu'adh, perhaps you will not see me again after this year, and perhaps you will pass by my masjid or my grave." And Mu'adh ibn Jabal says that when I heard these words coming from the mouth of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I had so much grief that I began to cry. Just at the thought, how could Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam die? And he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then turned his face towards Medina, and he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the worthiest of my company are those in the hereafter who are most pious. The ones who will be in my company are those who are most pious, whomever and wherever they are. And this is what I wanted to elaborate on today with you today, that whomever and wherever they are. Obviously, we're 1435 years after the Prophet ﷺ is gone, even more than that. 1435 years after the Hijrah, we're here. And Rasulullah ﷺ said that if you want to be in my company, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, if you are pious, you will be among my company. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha has reported that Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Aisha radiallahu anha says that she was walking in the same manner as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam walked. His daughter walked like him, and she approached him. Upon seeing her, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Ya binti, tafaddali," my daughter, oh my daughter, welcome. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sat her next to him, either on the right side or the left side. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha says that after he seated her next to him, he whispered into her ear something. And when she heard this, what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had to say, she began to cry. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha says that I asked her, "Ya Fatima, what made you cry?" And then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam whispered in her ear again. And now she began to smile. So I said to her, "I have never seen such emotion, happiness and sadness so close to each other as I have today." And so I asked her, "What did the Prophet ﷺ tell you?" And Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha said, "I do not wish to reveal something which the Prophet ﷺ whispered to me alone. He said it to me alone, so I want to keep it to myself." And Aisha radiallahu anha says that after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, I asked her the same question again. I said, "Ya Fatima, will you tell me the answer now? What had happened?" And she replied this time. She said, "First of all, the Prophet ﷺ said to me that Jibreel alayhi salam reviews the Quran with me once every year." That the Prophet ﷺ said that Jibreel comes to me and he reviews the Quran with me once every year. But this year, Jibreel alayhi salam reviewed the Quran with me twice. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to her, "I think that this is because the time of my death has come, and you will be the next from my family to die." And she says, Fatima radiallahu anha, "When I heard this, I began to cry." And then he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, seeing that his daughter was crying, he whispered in her ear again, he said, "Are you not happy that you will be the best of all the ladies of paradise?" وَفَاطِمَةٌ سَيِّدَةُ نِسَاءِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And Fatima radiallahu anha says, "Yes, after that, I heard that, I began to smile out of joy." So my dear brothers and sisters, the Prophet's final illness began just after he buried one of his companions. And I'm going to give you somewhat of a timeline of the illness of the Prophet ﷺ, what he went through, and I will tell you why I gave you this in the end, inshallah. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it is said that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was in her home, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came back from a janazah, and he found that Aisha was suffering from a headache. She was having a headache, and she was saying, oh, my head, explaining her head was hurting. And so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came home and said, well, rather it is my head that aches. My head is the one that hurts. Then he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Aisha radiallahu anha, what harm would it be to you, O Aisha? How bad would it be for you? Would it be bad if you were to die before me? Because I would wash you, I would cover you, I would pray over you, and then I would bury you. So in the end, if the Prophet ﷺ did all these things, then her status would be even more elevated because the Prophet did those things for her. So he's asking her this rhetorical question. And so Aisha radiallahu anha says, to this I replied, I swear by Allah that if this was to occur, if this were to occur, then you would come back from my janazah and you would marry again. That after this were to happen, you would come back and marry again. So he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he heard this from his wife, he began to smile. And it was from this point, this story that I just told you, this is when his final illness had started, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu has narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam once said in his speech, I hope, I see people are tired, please try to pay attention, and when somebody says sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inshallah. It's mandatory, it must be said. So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu has narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave a speech one time. And he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given one of his servants the choice between this life or what he has saved for him, the Jannah. And the servant has chosen what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has saved for him. Upon hearing this story from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, someone began to cry. Who began to cry? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu began to cry after hearing this story. And all the companions, they say, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri says, we did not know why is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu crying. And we found out later, after the fact, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was giving us an idea that his death is coming near. And that he was telling us this, and we did not understand this, but Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu understood this, and we knew at that point that there was no one that was closer to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So my dear brothers and sisters, the final illness of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam started at the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, the month that just has passed. And his companions have reported some of those details, what he went through, what he endured. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said that when it became difficult for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to move around, to move from place to place, he asked permission from his wives if he could remain in my apartment, in the apartment of Aisha radiallahu anha. And they all agreed to this. So one day during the sickness of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was carried outside by Abbas radiallahu anhu and Ali radiallahu anhu on either side of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, while his feet were dragging along the ground. So this is the pain that he was enduring at that time. He could not even move himself to go into the masjid. He had to be assisted to get into the masjid. And we know how strong the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said that whenever the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would become sick, his sunnah was that he would recite the al-Mu'awwidhat, Surah Falaq, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq, and Surah Nas into his palms, blow into his palms, and then he would wipe over his body whenever he was sick. But Aisha radiallahu anha says that at this point when he was sick, that he could not do this himself. So I recited the al-Mu'awwidhat, and I blowed into his palms, and then I used his palms to rub them over his body. Our Prophet ﷺ suffered a great deal of pain, my dear brothers and sisters, through his final sickness. Aisha ﷺ tells us, I have never seen anyone go through pain which was harsher than what the Prophet ﷺ endured during his final sickness. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud tells us, he says that I went to see the Prophet ﷺ one time during his final sickness. And I found him suffering from intense pain. So I placed my hand on him and I said, Ya Rasulullah, indeed you are suffering from intense pain. You're really going through much difficulty. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, yes, I suffer twice as much as anyone else would. And so I asked him, Ya Rasulullah, will you get double the reward? And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, yes. And then he said to me, Allah will eliminate sins just as a tree sheds its leaves for any Muslim who is afflicted with sickness or any other trial. So this is the advice that the Prophet gave at that time. One of them, that if you're going through difficulty, Allah is compensating you for that difficulty. That sickness, for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving your sins. May Allah forgive all of our sins, my dear brothers and sisters. Ibn Majah rahmatullahi alayhi has said that the majority of the scholars agree, that the final illness of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam lasted for a period of 13 days. Some scholars add to that 1 day, while others take away another day. And some scholars even say that his sickness only lasted 10 days. But the majority of the scholars again agree that his sickness lasted for 13 days. My dear brothers and sisters, some of the advices, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had so many things to say, so much advice to give, so much inspiration to inspire us with. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam during his final sickness gave us some advices. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha has said that during this final sickness of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had said, may Allah curse the previous nations who made their prophets' graves into places of prostration. That may Allah curse the previous nations who had made the area where their prophet had passed away into a place of prostration. And he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam had said this because why? Aisha radiallahu anha says that had he not said this, then I am afraid that the people at that time would have made where he had passed away a place of prostration. And Aisha radiallahu anha says, even still, I have a feeling that one day this will still happen. That the people will still make a place of prostration out of where the Prophet ﷺ had passed away. And so this is one of the advices he gave. Salama radiallahu anha has said that the Prophet ﷺ advised us during his final illness to guard your prayers and to watch over what your right hands possess. And he ﷺ continued to repeat these words until he was unable to talk. That this advice he gave, make sure, do not let your prayers go. Hold on to your prayers. Pray as much as possible. Whenever it is time, pray your prayers. Do not neglect your prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and pay the zakah. Pay where it is due, to whom it is due upon, and when it is due on time. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave these two pieces of advice. My dear brothers and sisters, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu has narrated that when the Prophet ﷺ became very, very ill, last few days were coming, he began to lose consciousness. He was in and out of consciousness. So his daughter Fatima ﷺ saw him in this condition, and she said, what extreme pain. How much pain my father is suffering. And so the Prophet ﷺ heard his daughter saying this, and he said, your father will not suffer again after this day. That his final time was coming. And so his final time had come. And as you might imagine, the Sahaba radhiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, we think we love Rasulullah. You do not know how much the Sahaba radhiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, how much they love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When this happened, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away, the Muslims were in a state of shock. Imam Ibn Majah says that they were in a state of shock. Some of them were confused, others were surprised, and others even dropped to their knees and they were unable to stand. Others could not even talk. And others still would not believe this news that the Prophet ﷺ had actually passed away. This is how shocked they were. And Aisha radiallahu anha has said that when the Prophet ﷺ died, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not around. He was not around at that place. And Umar radiallahu anhu stood up and he addressed the people. And he said, I swear by Allah that the Prophet ﷺ has not died. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came to the home, to the apartment, to where the Prophet ﷺ was lying down. He uncovered his face and kissed him and said, I would sacrifice my father and mother for your sake. You are just as fragrant after your death as you were during your life. And then he got up and he went out to face the people. And he said, O you who is swearing by Allah, to Umar radiallahu anhu, O you who is swearing by Allah, calm yourself. When Umar radiallahu anhu saw and heard Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is coming, he sat down quietly. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came and he praised and thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله فإنه حي لا يموت. Or كما قال. That Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, whoever worshipped Muhammad, that if you worship Muhammad, know that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is dead. But that whoever worships Allah, حي لا يموت, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed alive and He will never die. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu recited the ayah, إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. Indeed, you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you will die and they will die. The believers will die. And then he recited the ayah, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ وَمَنْ يَنْقَلِبْ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ. Muhammad is nothing but a messenger. Other messengers have passed on before him. So if he was to die or to be killed, would you turn back on your heels to unbelief? And he who turns back on his heels will never harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward the grateful. My dear brothers and sisters, I did not tell you about the final moments and give you this timeline of how the Prophet went through his illness, the pain that he suffered through, to make you sad, to make you upset, to make you cry. I did not want to, make you go through this grief. I had a reason to do this. My dear brothers and sisters, all I wanted to share with you today is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has not passed. He is living in our daily lives, and those who follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you follow the sunnah as much as possible, as closely as possible, you put your effort into living as closely as possible as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he will always be within your life. He will never be gone away from you. He will always be near to you. And how can we do that? And I would say, give you two examples, quickly inshallah. Give you two examples of the stars that came before us, the Sahaba, ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. Today people follow stars in Hollywood, George Clooney and Brad Pitt and all these, whoever is at the top now, those are stars for people now. The stars for us came a long time ago. So follow their example. And I'll give you two of those examples, inshallah, very quickly. It is narrated that one day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was delivering an address in his masjid. And he saw that some men were just standing around. They were not sitting and listening to the speech, and they were not leaving, so they were causing, disturbance for the people. No one could really hear what was going on because they were in the way. And so seeing that this was causing difficulty, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw these men and he asked them to sit down. He asked these men, he said, sit down, please. So at this time when he made this order, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu walked into the masjid. He walked into the masjid, right where the shoes are, where we put our shoes, he walked into the masjid. And when he came to the masjid and he heard the order was given by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for these people to sit down. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu heard that order and he sat down right where he was standing at the shoes. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam approached him afterward and he said, "Oh Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, I was not even speaking to you. You had just walked into the masjid. I was speaking to these other men who were in the way to sit down. They were causing difficulty for the people." And so Abdullah, he asked him, "Why did you sit down there? I was not speaking to you." And so Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said that when your command came, Ya Rasulullah, when your command came, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud would not dare step forward. Then when I heard this command come from you, Ya Rasulullah, there was no way that I could step forward. My dear brothers and sisters, this is the respect that I was speaking of. The obedience to the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ that I was speaking of. How does that apply to us? When I hear a hadith, when we hear a hadith, the first thing we ask, is this authentic? Show me where you got this hadith from. Is this what really the Prophet said? I don't believe it. No. But Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, this command was not even made for him. And he sat down at where, right when he heard that order, he followed it. This is something that I need to bring into my life. This is something that we need to bring into our lives. That when we hear a hadith, that we don't question its authenticity, but we act upon the words and the advices of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lastly, my dear Muslims, Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu was a companion who served alongside the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Battle of Uhud. And the Muslims were being attacked at this time during the battle. And Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu saw an incredible number of arrows coming into in the direction of who? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He saw that these arrows are going towards the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he decides at that moment that he has to become a shield and protect Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He has to become the barrier that will protect the Prophet from these arrows and protect his life. So how is he going to do this? So Abu Dujana radiallahu anhu is thinking to himself, how will I do this? If I stand in front of the arrows and they come into my chest, my back will face Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this cannot happen. This is not possible. This is not the etiquette that we treat the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with. So he faced Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, faced him, and he took the arrows into his back. This is the respect of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is something, my dear brothers and sisters, that I need to bring into my life. Something that all of us need to strive to bring into our lives. There are people now that say that we do not follow the sunnah because within the sunnah there are ikhtilafat. There are differences of opinion in the sunnah. So we only follow what is in the Quran. And that is not the way, my dear brothers and sisters. Iman cannot be complete until you follow the sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah give us the tawfiq, that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that we respect the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grant all of us unrestricted obedience to Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.